We make mistakes, we fail, and it really sucks when we do. But we all know failure can be a very good teacher when it happens. So my question to you is this. If failure is such a good teacher, why do we wait for it to happen? Why don't we intentionally design for it? What if designing for failure could be the locus of powerful learning? What if we could design failure in ways that are actually productive for learning? And now, what if I told you that we now understand and know how to do exactly that? And we understand the science behind it as well. And I'm going to share a bit of that with you. So as a teacher, my teaching philosophy was also relatively straightforward. I just thought, okay, if I could engage my students, if I could explain to them clearly, as clearly as possible, if I could show them step by step exactly what to do, when to do, how to do it, that they would just get it. If only. Many of them just would not get it. They would not see what I was trying to show them. So I'll do it all over again. Explain step by step. And still, many won't see it. So I, for the life of me, just couldn't understand why weren't my students seeing what I was so desperately and hopefully clearly trying to show them? So I want to do a thought experiment here. Imagine you're in a movie. Now imagine the movie is really entertaining, very engaging. You're at the edge of your seats. Next, imagine the person who's sitting next to you is an acclaimed director. Someone who's an expert at making movies, good movies. You watch the movie, you come out, and I ask you a very simple question. Did you see the same movie as the director? Did you see what the director saw? If you think about it, chances are you'd say no. Because even though you were watching the same movie, the director would see things that you won't even think about, let alone actually see them. And that's what decades of research in experts versus novices actually says that. Experts, given the same perceptual stimuli, see very different things from novices. Novices tend to be lost in superficial features, surface features of the phenomena. Experts tend to see deep structure, critical features. Because seeing is not simply a perceptual exercise. It's a cognitive one. And that was my aha moment. That's when I realized what I'd done wrong as a teacher. I had assumed in my so-called engaging lectures that my students were seeing the same thing I was seeing. I realized the first job of a teacher is actually not to teach. The first job of a teacher is to prepare the novice to see and then show them. So showing what you have as an expert is really important. Of course, no arguments there. But preparing the novice to first see what you want them to see and then showing it is even more important. That begs the question, okay, so how do we prepare novices to see? As it is in sport, it is in learning. Nothing prepares you to see better than failure. So let me make it concrete. Imagine all of you are trying to learn a new math concept. And imagine I am your math teacher, unfortunately. What should I do? Should I first teach you the concept, explain it to you, and then get you to solve problems? Instruction first, then problem solving? Or should I give you problems to solve first, and then give you instruction or teach you the concepts? So the first method is called direct instruction. It's very simple. You don't know the concept, I'll teach you. I'll show you, I'll explain to you what the concept is, and I'll give you problems to solve. It's a method you and I are used to. We grew up with it, and it's still the most dominant method of instruction around the world. Direct instruction. The second method is not so straightforward. If you don't know the concepts yet, what's the point in me asking you to solve problems that require the very concepts that you don't know yet? Chances are you will fail. You won't be able to solve those problems. So why should I make you fail? That's evil. Unless there is an efficacy to that failure. and unless, and here's the important point, I can intentionally design that failure to be productive for learning from instruction afterwards. And that's what productive failure is. So, which method would you choose? Direct instruction or productive failure? Which method would you like to be in? To the parents in the room, which one would you like your child to be in? You see, 15 years ago, when I was beginning to ask these questions, the prevailing science, theory, wisdom were dead against productive failure. So how do you choose? As a scientist, we run experiments. We run all sorts of experiments. What did we find? When you look at basic knowledge development, there is absolutely no difference between productive failure and direct instruction. Both methods are very good at developing basic knowledge. And by basic knowledge, I mean this is the kind of knowledge that gets tested on exams and standardized tests. Important stuff, but basic knowledge. But when you start to probe whether students understand what they know and whether they can transfer what they know to solve novel problems, that's when productive failure starts to outperform significantly direct instruction students. And the effects are very strong. To put it practically, if you were learning via productive failure, it would seem as though you were performing 1 or 2 academic years ahead of direct instruction. Think about that. That's a huge effect. What's even more amazing? We found out that the more students fail, the more solutions they produce that do not work, the more they're prepared to learn, and the more they learn. That's amazing. Failure directly influences learning. Productive failure over the last 10, 15 years has been replicated, extended, reproduced across the globe. But the real message is that the findings are really robust. And I know, if you're trying to learn something new, and I catch myself as well, if you're trying to learn something new, it's very easy to take the path of least resistance. If you know it, just tell me. But we are learning that making learning easy does not necessarily ease learning. And in productive failure shows that actually making initial learning harder, more challenging, difficult, where learners struggle and even fail, actually prepares them to see and learn from instruction later on. Why? Why does productive failure work that way? Well, because good things happen on the other side of failure. It's on the other side of failure is what creates what I call 4A conditions of deep learning: activation, awareness, affect, and assembly. Activation. So we all build new knowledge based on prior knowledge. But you can't build on prior knowledge if you don't activate it. So failure does a really good job at activating your prior knowledge. You solve problems, you try to do whatever you can, it activates your knowledge. And then it gives you awareness of what you know, but also an awareness of what you do not. You find the limit of your knowledge. And if you have the right mindset, failure creates a positive affect. You're then motivated and interested to bridge that gap. So you've got your knowledge activated, you know what you know what you don't know. You have the awareness and then the motivation and the affect to bridge that gap. Now imagine if at this point in time, an expert or a teacher comes in and then explains to you, works with you, builds knowledge, and puts it all together, assembles the whole thing for you. That's where powerful learning takes place. That's what deep learning is about. You see, we've got to start thinking about knowledge, concepts, ideas. These are not physical toys, obviously, but these are mental toys, conceptual toys. And part of deep learning, inventiveness, creativity, actually comes from playing with these toys, tinkering with them, connecting them, exploring them, failing and flailing. If you want to learn deeply, you've got to be able to explore. You've got to tinker and explore and fail and flail. Why? Because good things happen on the other side of failure.